What if C-3PO protected Padmé on Mustafar? What would happen then? We pick up with Padmé landing her ship on the fiery world. Let's begin. The volcanic hellscape of Mustafar sprawled beneath Padmé's descending ship, its lava rivers flowing with the same predictable indifference as Senate proceedings. Anakin's communicator had been offline for hours, which meant flying here personally to warn him that his former master, that psychopath, is trying to kill him. Padmé understood very little of what had actually happened. Anakin had allegedly massacred several Jedi in what Obi-Wan termed their temple, though Padmé privately considered it more of a psychiatric facility with lightsabers. This apparently rendered Anakin too dangerous to be left alive. The catalyst had been Mace Windu's botched arrest of Palpatine on charges of being a Sith, which had somehow resulted in Anakin receiving orders to detain the entire Order, or destroy it, or transfer everyone to Kashyyyk. She wasn't entirely sure what Obi-Wan had been rambling about. The logistics alone seemed convoluted, but Padmé maintained confidence that Anakin was simply following what he believed to be lawful orders. By the time the security she alerted arrived, Obi-Wan had disappeared after robbing one of her decorative vases, and Padmé decided to come warn Anakin. As the landing struts made contact, she spotted Anakin through the viewport, approaching the platform at a run. 3PO's voice registered from the co-pilot's seat, mentioning something about protection protocols. 3PO, stay in the ship, she said. Already turning away, she rushed through the corridor, past the storage compartments, boots quick against the durasteel plating. At the ramp's threshold, instinct made her slow, an incident from her reign as queen. She tripped running down a ship ramp and lost an incisor. Sabe had laughed. Padmé punched her in the mouth, then, still furious, claimed she'd been trying to knock out the corresponding tooth so her decoy would match. They hadn't spoken except when protocol demanded it for several days afterward. 14 years later, the caution around ramps remained. She descended with measured urgency, arms out slightly for balance. Anakin was waiting at the base of the ramp. They met on the platform, embracing briefly while the heat from the lava flows created an uncomfortably romantic backdrop. "Annie, listen," Padmé said before he could speak. "Obi-Wan showed up at our apartment. He wanted to know where you were, said he was going to kill you, spouting all kinds of insane accusations." She pulled back from the embrace, holding his face in her hands. "What happened exactly?" Anakin recounted the events. Windu had tried to arrest Palpatine after learning he was a Sith Lord. The other masters with him were killed, but Windu tripped and fell out the window. Palpatine offered to teach Anakin how to save her from the death he'd foreseen in his visions. He agreed and turned to the dark side. Palpatine dispatched him to the temple, where, as Anakin phrased it, the dark side's influence took hold. "Tonight I just had to kill a lot of Jedi, Padmé. Some knights in the meditation gardens, maybe 5 or 10. A Padawan I found in the archives. I left him in the history section near the agriculture holocrons." His voice cracked. "I killed Senube, my old combat master, with a scattergun. Then an old man, some fossil with a cane." He looked down, shaking his head. "There were others in the eastern corridors. I shot them with a semi-automatic blaster. I had to. They almost got away." He looked up at her, beginning to break. "There was someone else there. Maybe a consular, I can't remember, but they're dead too." A flash of something darker crossed his face, his voice steadying with brief satisfaction. "And Sin Dralig. I killed Sin Dralig with my lightsaber in the face. His body is dissolving in a cleaning vat in the temple's kitchen. I don't want to leave anything out here. I guess I killed 100 Jedi, maybe 200. The clones took recordings of some of it." He took a shaky breath, preparing for the worst of it. "And then I went to the council chamber to get away from the sounds and Padmé. There were younglings in the chamber. They shouldn't have been there. The clones were supposed to move them. One of them looked at me," his voice broke into sobs, "and called me master, and asked what they should do, and the dark side told me to activate my saber and—" She clapped her hand over his mouth, shushing him. "Just breathe. It's okay." She held his gaze. "It was the dark side's influence, right?" Before he could answer, she nodded up and down. Yes, it was, Annie." She took her hand off his mouth. "Remember what you told me about Ahsoka? How she tried to kill you after being manipulated by the dark side? On that Mortis world, you forgave her. You said it wasn't her doing those things." She gripped his shoulders. "This is the same thing. The same thing." She looked at him intently. "Right?" He nodded, breathing a little steadier now, calming down. "Exactly. Don't worry, all right? We'll make this all go away." She was pacing now, already constructing legal strategies. "Palpatine manipulated you through force coercion. You weren't in control of your own mind or body." She ticked off charges on her fingers. "We have him on multiple counts. Unauthorized use of force manipulation on a Republic officer, conspiracy to commit treason, orchestrating a coup, giving unlawful orders during a state of emergency, and accessory to mass murder through coercion. This constitutes clear grounds for a diminished capacity defense when you testify against him before the Senate. You're the victim here, Anakin. Palpatine is the one who committed these crimes. He just used you as the weapon. Anakin started to object. The visions of her dying. If Palpatine was locked up before he could teach him, Padmé had never taken his dream of her dying any more seriously than the one he'd had of Jar Jar fighting 5 shadow creatures with a red lightsaber. Anakin had stress nightmares constantly. She'd been trying to reassure him for months, assuming he knew they weren't real. She hadn't anticipated Palpatine would exploit them, twisting anxiety dreams into prophecies. But there was no time to argue about visions. Right now, they needed to leave. If Palpatine has knowledge we need, we'll get it after he's imprisoned. Republic intelligence knows how to extract information from uncooperative prisoners. She met his eyes. By whatever means necessary, okay? Anakin looked away for a moment, then gave in. It made sense, even through the fog of guilt and confusion. She could see it click. Political strategy was her domain, and he trusted her here the way she trusted him on military matters. Great, let's leave. We can strategize en route. The question suddenly occurred to her. Wait, Anakin, why were you here? Hello there, you pathetic lifeforms. They turned in unison. Obi-Wan Kenobi stood at the ship's ramp, arms akimbo in his signature sanctimonious pose. Anakin immediately recognized the manipulation. Obi-Wan had a documented pattern of exploiting others to track his targets. He'd once refused to place a traumatized youngling in Kinderblock, instead using him as bait to draw out the father who'd murdered 20 people in a psychotic break. Now he'd stowed away on her ship, using Padmé's concern for him as a tracking device. Anakin, I know what you did at the temple. Why did you do it? Anakin opened his mouth to respond. Don't answer that, Annie. He's trying to trick you. Padmé cut in. To Obi-Wan she said, what did Anakin do, exactly? You have no evidence, Kenobi. Did you personally witness anything? You have not. You appear to have convinced yourself you saw something. Further evidence of you losing your mind, nothing more. Obi-Wan's voice rose. The security recordings showed him pledging himself to Palpatine, slaughtering Jedi, killing younglings. Security recordings? Padmé laughed. Synthetic media generation has existed for centuries. Any first-year Academy student can fabricate holograms. And where is this footage? Why haven't you uploaded it to the HoloNet? If the hero of the Republic really slaughtered younglings, you'd be broadcasting it across every channel in the galaxy. But you have not, because it doesn't exist. You're a liar. And even if the dark side somehow controlled Anakin's actions through Palpatine's manipulation, that makes him a victim you failed to protect. You never stopped Palpatine from freely interacting with Anakin at the temple. You allowed a Sith Lord access to your Padawan for years. It was your responsibility to keep him safe, Obi-Wan. Not Windu's, not Yoda's, not the Council's, yours. Obi-Wan tried to speak, but she talked over him. You failed your apprentice. You failed your master. You failed Satine. Everything you touch, you destroy. Pathetic. That's why you call everyone else pathetic, isn't it? Your own insecurity. Obi-Wan's perfect Jedi stance faltered. Padmé had made senators and viceroys weep during negotiations. She knew exactly where to twist the verbal blade. She also knew C-3PO was still inside the ship. Her data chrono hadn't alerted her to a device connection failure, which meant Kenobi hadn't destroyed him. She just needed to keep him distracted long enough. Beside her, Anakin rubbed his eyes, bewildered by her viciousness. He'd been trying to gather words. Maybe he could explain it. His situation was like Ahsoka on Mortis, the dark side controlling him. Padmé saw the crack in Kenobi's composure and twisted deeper, unable to suppress the smile spreading across her face. Oh, look at little Qui-Gon Jr. Gonna cry? I'm going to put an end to your... Obi-Wan started. Die, came C-3PO's voice. Obi-Wan never saw it coming. The energy blast tore through him from behind, leaving a smoking fist-sized hole in his chest. His body crumpled and rolled down the ramp in an undignified heap. For a moment they stood frozen. Anakin's hands went to his head, then he was moving, running to where Obi-Wan had fallen. Milady, I have protected you, C-3PO announced from the top of the ramp, holding a massive ion blaster with both hands. Have I performed satisfactorily? Padmé blinked, still processing. Yes, 3PO. Excellent work. Go back inside. We'll be right up. She walked over to where Anakin knelt beside the body. He turned it over, the smoking hole in Obi-Wan's chest still smoldering, the burned flesh releasing an acrid smell. Anakin covered his nose. Obi-Wan's eyes stared upward, unseeing. He was a psychopath, Padmé said. got what he deserved. Anakin's face crumpled. He was my master, Padme. You are too forgiving. He came here to kill us both. You heard him. 3PO did what he had to do. It was us or him. She gestured at the body. There was no other way, Annie. He wasn't going to leave until we were dead. Anakin just stayed there, kneeling beside the body, his hand trembling as it hovered near Obi-Wan's shoulder, but couldn't quite touch. He realized, somewhere through the grief, that Padme was probably right. You were either with Obi-Wan or against him, and he'd arrived with his mind already made up about what had to be done. Once Obi-Wan decided something, there was no stopping him. It had to end this way. Anakin, we have to go. Leave him. Anakin stayed silent, still staring at the body. Anakin, we should say something, he said quietly. Last words. It wouldn't be proper otherwise. Padme watched him for a moment, then sighed. Fine, I'll begin. She looked down at the body. My first memory of Obi-Wan Kenobi was him suggesting we auction off my royal wardrobe to pay for hyperdrive parts on Tatooine. That same day, he called a slave a pathetic life form. Years later, I learned he'd instructed Anakin to think of me as nothing more than a corrupt politician. My final memory will be of him arriving at my apartment, claiming my husband had become a dangerous murderer, yet still manipulating me, 9 months pregnant, into leading him to this threat. He stowed away on my ship and sat there while I walked out alone to face what he insisted was an insane monster who had killed several younglings. He used my love as a tracking device, orchestrated his dramatic entrance, and died for it. There's a theory about the dying brain. All neurons fire at once, stretching the last seconds into subjective years. If it's true, I hope Obi-Wan felt nothing but pain through all of it. Anakin appeared drained as he delivered his own eulogy. Obi-Wan did his best with what Qui-Gon taught him. He helped everyone he could, protected the Order's honor against pretenders and charlatans. He saved countless lives during his years of service. His methods were questionable at times, but he tried not to hurt anyone unnecessarily. As a master, he did what he could with the burden he was given. Training me was a task forced upon him by a dying wish, yet he never complained, not once. He carried that responsibility for 13 years without protest. He wasn't perfect, but he was dutiful. He was constant. He was my master. I hope he's somewhere better, somewhere without the obligations that defined his entire life. Anakin reached down and closed Obi-Wan's eyes, his fingers gentle. R2 had rolled over and was beeping insistently at Anakin, a series of queries and concerns. Padme shot her former droid a look that could melt Durasteel. The astromech recognized that expression and rolled up the ramp without another sound. Soon they lifted off. Anakin looked out the viewport as the ship rose, watching Obi-Wan's body grow smaller on the platform below. His master was dead because of him, because he'd turned, because Padme had defended him, because 3PO had... Poor Obi-Wan hadn't deserved this. Behind his eyes, memories played, bar fights on Coruscant's lower levels where they'd fought side by side. That time they'd brawled with those Trandoshan bouncers who wouldn't let them into that club. Obi-Wan laughing after they had accidentally destroyed an entire speeder race betting ring. So, Anakin, Padme began outlining their strategy. You'll broadcast live on the HoloNet. Explain that Palpatine used force manipulation to control your mind. When you recovered your memories, you contacted me from Mustafar. You were here to... She paused. Wait, why were you here? To eliminate the Separatist leadership, Anakin said, in a dead tone, the full truth having drowned beneath the tide of blood and betrayal that had consumed him, and perhaps too because admitting Palpatine's treachery meant facing his own willingness to follow a traitor, all for her. Padme's head snapped toward him. I'm sorry, what? Anakin explained that Palpatine had been controlling both sides of the war, orchestrating the entire conflict, commanding both the Republic and the Separatist forces simultaneously. Until now, Padme had thought Windu's arrest attempt was simply about Palpatine being a Sith Lord, a religious matter, essentially. Padme brought the ship to a hover in the dark clouds. She spun her chair to face Anakin. This is perfect. This strengthens everything. Her palm struck the armrest decisively as the pieces assembled themselves in her mind, her eyes brightening with each connection made, each implication understood, the narrative constructing itself with the same precision she'd used to dismantle political opponents. Through the viewport, behind her, Mustafar's crimson clouds roiled and churned, casting her face in shifting shades of red and shadow. So, here's our story, she began. The Council discovered Palpatine was a traitor, that he'd been orchestrating the entire war from both sides. Your intelligence located the Separatist leadership on Mustafar. Once the Council had this, you and the other Masters moved to arrest Palpatine for treason. That's when he dropped the mask, revealed himself as a Sith Lord, murdered Windu and the others with dark side powers, then went after your mind, twisted your memories to turn you against the Order. But you were too strong for him. His control broke. You understood what had to be done. The Senate was already applauding him, so exposing him meant gathering hard evidence first. The Separatists on Mustafar could provide exactly that. You contacted the one person you knew you could trust, me, and we came here together. After the animated gestures that had accompanied her strategic narrative, her hands suddenly stilled. Then one shot forward to point directly at him. But Palpatine's agent was already waiting. Obi-Wan Kenobi, traitor to both Republic and Jedi Order, had slaughtered the Separatist leaders to eliminate loose ends for his master. He'd fallen to the dark side, consumed by jealousy of your achievements, your power, everything you'd become that he could never be. This conspirator, this betrayer of everything the Order represented, attacked us to bury the truth. You had no choice but to cut him down. She gripped his shoulders. Now we expose them both, Palpatine and his treacherous dog, Kenobi. Anakin's gaze crashed to the floor, his shoulders sagging with the weight. All these lies stacking one atop another like molten layers of rock, bearing what really happened beneath their scorching weight, burying Obi-Wan under... She grabbed his face, forcing him to meet her eyes. For our family, Annie. For our children. This is the only way. Her grip tightened. I'm with you. Are you with me? Anakin held her gaze, something settling in his expression. I'm with you. Then let's do this. They descended back to the landing pad and entered the Separatist command center. R2 interfaced with the security systems and uncovered holo recordings of Palpatine communicating with the Separatist Council. In one from earlier that day, he promised, Lord Vader will arrive to take care of you. Lord Vader, Padmé repeated, relief flickering behind her determination. We'll make that Kenobi's Sith title. Fortunate he didn't use your real name. R2 copied the files and wiped the past 12 hours of footage. Anakin killing the Separatists erased. Padmé uploaded the recordings to her holofeed, a series of holo recordings showing the hooded figure who'd addressed the Senate now coordinating directly with Newt Gunray and the Separatist Council. The same hood, the same voice. She captioned them, one war, two sides, same architect. Then they went live. Billions watched as Senator Amidala and the hero with no fear stood before the corpses and delivered their account. Padmé laid out Palpatine's conspiracy, the trap when the Masters moved to arrest him, how he'd used Sith abilities to twist Anakin's mind. Anakin described breaking free and realizing they needed proof. Together, they explained how Obi-Wan Kenobi, now revealed as this Darth Vader, had slaughtered the Separatists to destroy that evidence, then attacked them. Anakin had been forced to kill him. The bodies confirmed everything. Anakin demanded Palpatine's immediate arrest. They warned that senators who'd applauded him might be compromised by Sith manipulation. The political machinery turned. Order 65 executed. Senators who'd supported Palpatine claimed they'd been misinformed by the state media. The media blamed their sources in the Intelligence Bureau. Intelligence blamed the analysts. The analysts blamed the data processors. The processors blamed the archivists. The blame rolled downhill until it landed on a junior HoloNet technician named Bryn Kolos, who'd once uploaded a Palpatine speech with the wrong subtitle formatting. Palpatine was brutally reminded of the difference between eras. In the ancient times, powerful Sith ruled through force dominance alone, but he'd taken power through politics, which meant politics could strip it away just as fast. That cursed Amidala woman had turned Anakin against him, or had he done that himself? No time for reflection. Order 65 was executed. Arrest imminent. He fled to Sojourn, his late master's retreat, and watched his reputation disintegrate through HoloNet feeds. Apparently Obi-Wan had been his apprentice all along. Surviving Jedi, even Yoda, testified that Kenobi had always shown dark tendencies. How had they convinced Yoda? Lifetime supply of death stick fluid? Brain damage from falling off that podium during their duel, perhaps? Didn't matter. He briefly wondered about the temple security recordings that would have shown Anakin, not Kenobi, slaughtering Jedi, but soon discovered reports claiming Palpatine and his apprentice Vader had employed Techno-Union synthetic media generators to fabricate false holograms implicating the hero with no fear. Even more galling, Kaminoan officials had confessed to manipulating clone biochips under his orders, altering the memories of any potential witnesses. Padmé's coalition was flexing its considerable power. She'd been named interim chancellor for her extraordinary bravery, with the Senate likely to make the position permanent within days. All his decades of patient scheming now serving her ascension. He would have admired such masterful political theater had it not been dismantling his life's work. Must be that Naboo blood, he thought bitterly. Anakin and Amidala were now the hero couple who'd saved the Republic. Anakin had feared Padmé would die without Palpatine to save her. She survived childbirth easily. Turned out vocalization during labor didn't indicate imminent death. He'd been overthinking. While the Amidala Skywalker family flourished in the decades that followed, Palpatine nursed his defeat in exile. He was nothing if not persistent. He spent those years researching Plagueis' midi-chlorian techniques for eternal youth, gradually reversing his aging, but the process was slow. At this rate, reaching even 50 again would take another 30 years. Unacceptable. He needed a faster solution. He found an apprentice, trained him in secret, cultivated him as a politician, a fresh face from the Outer Rim with populist credentials. When the man won his Senate seat representing the Sasvena sector, Palpatine made his move. Even with his partially reversed aging, the midi-chlorian techniques having brought his appearance back to that of a man in his early 50s, he couldn't use his own body for his political ambitions. The meticulous biometric protocols maintained by the Amidala Skywalker administration would flag him instantly in any official venue. Even after 40 years, their hunt for him hadn't ceased. Essence transfer, an ancient Sith technique, would solve everything. The possession ritual took place at the Kaldani Spires, same location where he'd murdered Plagueis decades prior. No need to alter a functioning formula. He got his apprentice drunk on Sulistan wine. Once the man dozed off, Palpatine began. He projected his consciousness through the midi-chlorians, threading it into the apprentice's body and submerging the man's consciousness beneath his own. He opened his eyes in the new body, laughing. Decades meant nothing to him now. A fresh vessel, unmarked by the galaxy's systems and brimming with youth. With his mastery of age manipulation and a clean political identity, patience was once again his ally. He'd orchestrated the fall of the Republic once before. The Amidala Skywalker regime would be no different. Their time was ending, and his was just beginning. Again. 2 words interrupted the laughter. "Hello, Sidious." Palpatine's triumph died. He turned. His abandoned body, the vessel he'd just vacated, rose to its feet. What is this?" Palpatine turned, his movements clumsy in the unfamiliar body. "When you murdered me," Plagueis said, examining his hands, "a fragment of my consciousness escaped into you through the midi-chlorians. You sensed me in the Force afterward, didn't you? That lingering presence for just a moment before it faded?" He smiled. "I didn't fade, Sheev. I compressed myself to nearly nothing, occupied the barest fragment of space in your consciousness. Dormant, but aware. 50 years of watching you fail." Palpatine's mind went back to that night. Yes, he'd felt something after killing Plagueis. A presence. He'd dismissed it as residual energy. "I couldn't act while you inhabited this body. I would have remained dormant forever." Plagueis walked closer. "Then you abandoned it. Created the opening I needed. Full control, at last." Palpatine had nothing to say. He raised his hand. Lightning sparked, weak, unfocused. The apprentice's body needed time, adjustment, muscle memory he didn't have. Plagueis struck. His lightning erupted. Perfect technique, honed by decades inhabiting Palpatine's form. His apprentice's body convulsed. "Now, young Sidious, you will die." The lightning intensified. Palpatine, trapped inside the failing vessel, burned. The attack didn't stop until nothing remained but a charred, steaming corpse. Plagueis emerged from the Kaldani Spires, one of Coruscant's most exclusive luxury residential complexes, into the night. The surrounding towers rising as austere monoliths of transparent steel and brushed durasteel, their metallic surfaces textured to catch the city lights in subtle, refined patterns that only the truly wealthy could afford. He walked. Minutes became hours, or perhaps the inverse. Time held different meaning when you'd spend 50 years compressed into synaptic background noise. The district shifted around him, residential severity giving way to something else. Prismatic light refracted through climate-controlled mist. Each droplet a tiny lens. Chrome and graphene facades turned the street into an infinite regression of warped reflections. Music escaped from doorways, subsonic pulses that bypassed the ears entirely, registering as pressure waves in the sternum. 3-dimensional commercial displays performed their theatrics between towers, constructed from synchronized photon swarms. This was the Federal District's entertainment sector, where credits transformed into experience. He stopped. He laughed. the pure unhinged laughter of liberation. He tilted his head back. The revelation arrived with the clarity of Force lightning. The grand plan, the rule of two, the ancient vendetta against the Jedi, the prophesied revenge spanning a millennium. What tremendous bullshit. The real unlimited power was with him all along. Money, and money, as it turned out, could be exchanged for goods and services. He selected the nearest establishment, its entrance a subtle shimmer in what appeared to be solid wall. Synthetic percussion echoed from within. Mechanized rhythms layered over processed bass frequencies, the kind of music engineered for movement rather than contemplation. Vocoder harmonics drifted through the space between beats. Inside, he ordered something violently expensive. No more sitting in dark rooms with oversized hoods, seething over betrayals that may or may not have happened 2 billion years ago. No more arguing on dark side holonet forums for 14 hours a day like some no-life loser. He would spend the rest of his days partying and getting laid. To the Sith, he quietly toasted, "May they stay extinct." He set the glass on the counter and crossed toward the dance floor. Through the glass's curve, the strobing colors warped and scattered. Plagueis, one distorted figure among hundreds, indistinguishable, anonymous. The track changed.